is up, y'all, and welcome to another video. If it's your first time stopping by my channel, I'm Jeffroz, and this is Jeffroz Fishkeeping. As many of you guys know, I just recently made a trip out to Michigan to see Jeremy from Sergeant Tank Pets. While I was out there, Jeremy was gracious enough to let me interview him, and that's what this video is today, the Sergeant Tank interview. Hopefully you guys enjoy. All right, guys, so I, as a member of the Fish Fam, have taken over Sergeant Tank Pets studio, and I have selected 25 questions, and we are gonna mash one out here. We're gonna get right into it, and we're gonna interview Sergeant Tank Pets. And the first question I have prepared for Jeremy is, how long have you been keeping fish, shrimp, plecos, etc.?
All right, well, it dates back to about 1990 is when I first acquired my first system, which was a 29-gallon community tank with some angelfish and, believe it or not, the other community, even live bears. Now, as far as exactly what I had, I can't remember. That was too far back. So whatever that equivalates to, I'm trying to think, 27-ish, be 34 this year. So whatever that comes out to, you guys do the math. Did that answer?
How long have you been keeping fish, shrimp, and plecos, etc.?
So there was obviously a hiatus in between that time, basically through high school and portion of high school until ended up moving out. Got married when I was 19. So basically right after, not too long after getting married, is when I got back into it, and it'll be 14 years next month, 14 years of marriage. So that's consistently been about 13, 14 years now.
All right, the next question kind of piggybacks off of the first question. How long have you been breeding fish, shrimp, and plecos, etc.?
About 14 years.
All right, that was an easy one. Question number three. What would you say is the single most important thing a person needs to know or do before they start keeping fish, shrimp, etc., and then before moving in to starting breeding fish, shrimp, and plecos, etc.?
All right, well, the first one isn't too difficult. Obviously, education is the most important thing. Understand the bare bottom basics as far as when it comes to the nitrogen cycle. Nitrification cycle by far is the most important. If you fail in that and you jump into the breeding aspect of it, you're going to fail. I can guarantee it. My failures, because I didn't understand enough about it, even I did things wrong looking back when I was younger, is you learn very quickly what works and what don't work. And the biggest thing is sustainability, and don't rush it, which ties into the next thing. When it comes to breeding, I always share on our channel from the standpoint of enjoy your fish for a minimum of 2 years before you even get into breeding. That's really when multiple tank syndrome really takes over. And I see, the reason I say that is I'm probably one of few that I see end up taking either a hiatus or taking a very long break because they burn themselves out. I see it happen all the time with close friends. I see it happen through members of our club. I see it happen through other clubs. I see it happen through the community. They're like, oh yeah, I'm all gung-ho. I'm breeding all these different species. I hit the BAP. You know, I'm a master superstar when it comes to the BAP program through our club. And they end up getting out of it within 2 or 3 years. What makes a good, solid foundation to me as an overall aquarist is accepting the challenges that are at hand and embracing in those. Realizing you will have loss, not only loss of fish, but loss financially, loss of sleep, loss of sometimes appetite for yourself. It really is, this to me, from being a family that keeps a lot of different stuff. I've been in the reptile game. We have cats, we have dogs, we have birds. Understanding this, I look at each single tank as its own little science project. It's the easiest way I can explain it. Each tank is unique. Each tank is different. Understanding the water chemistry. It's kind of a hard way to really water that down, but just enjoy fish keeping. Enjoy, understand nitrogen cycle, understanding the species that you're keeping, educate yourself. You really just have to live it and experience it for yourself.
All right. Number 4. What has been the easiest species for you to care for and breed, and why?
Ancestors Plecos, obviously, because of our logo. Been breeding and understanding that species for well over 12 years, and I educated myself on what works and what don't work. But if I had to give you a very watered down answer, that would be hands down easy. In that and shrimp, it always came with its challenges. I mean, if I look back, and was it easy starting out with? Yes and no. They're not the most difficult, but you learn really quickly what works and what doesn't work to obtain the best yield possible. Do I consider myself still an expert in that field? No, I don't consider myself an expert, not even close. That's what I enjoy about diversification of this hobby. Always has its challenges. I learned something, and just because you don't see it on my channel and I don't talk about it, I mean, if you guys ask me, hey, what was the last time you had a failure? When's the last time? All the time, every day, I learn something new. It doesn't matter what we're doing. I'm very open about that and very transparent. I mean, it doesn't matter how long you're in it. I have my losses. I have my challenges, just like everybody does in the hobby.
What would you say has been the hardest species for you to care for and breed, and why is that?
Currently, I would say the most challenging, because of raising up the fry, before would be the Mycogeophagus, your germ blue ram cichlids. They're very finicky, especially with water chemistry. I'm trying to think currently. I'm getting into tetras, so I can't really speak yet. So I would say right now, but it's so new yet that I'm getting into breeding tetras. I would say that the yields are going to be much lower, and they're more opportunistic in the way that you obtain them. They're so small. I don't know if you guys have ever seen paradise fish, but paradise fish fry, the easiest way I can explain it, paradise fish fry are just microscopic, and these guys are almost half the size when they come out, depending on, of course, what species it is.
Question number 6. What is your favorite or most enjoyable fish, shrimp or pleco, to keep, and why is that?
Fish wise, of course, hands down to be Severns because of their personality. I think most people that have been following our channel is probably aware of that. I'm pretty transparent with that. I would say hands down, of anything I've ever kept and things I've seen from other people, you're not going to find a better temperament, a better personality than Severn. That's why I've kept them for over 12 years. I really enjoy the species. Now, as far as shrimp, because I've been breeding shrimp for close to 14 years as well, I would still have to go back and just say your standard Neocaridina debiti, your cherries. Shrimp wise, that would be my favorite. And then what was the other one?
Or pleco.
Pleco's obviously, that's a no-brainer.
Right. Number 8. For our subscribers out there that are hobbyists trying to breed fish, shrimp, and plecos, what is your thoughts on how they control the population, i.e. getting too much stock to get rid of?
If you want to control population, doesn't matter what species you're breeding, have 2 or 3 tanks available and ready to go for that species. And I always have 2 or 3 systems going. And how you start maintaining is you let things adapt and evolve as they go. So as fish start to develop certain cannibalistic behaviors, so from that standpoint, let them go ahead and absorb the nutrients within that carapace and that in that skeletal structure from the shrimp. Because I'm not worried about disease or anything like that. The reason that it does is I'm not overfeeding the tank. And what it does is it helps balance out the ecosystem, where unfortunately they got hungry and they end up attacking. Shrimp can be very, very cannibalistic. People don't give them, appreciate them enough. I've seen them go after other shrimp. I've seen them go after other things in the system. In the ecosystem, could be snails, that type of stuff. So yeah, don't take it for granted just because you keep shrimp. They can get, especially we don't do a lot of like power feeding and stuff like that here. So,
all right. So question number 9 is, how should people go about approaching their LFS to sell livestock?
The main thing is reputation and understanding your demeanor and your temperament. You're going to be able to get a feel. Just be a customer first and foremost. I'm a firm believer on supporting local businesses, not just local fish stores, but other businesses locally. Develop relationships that are going to last, and then you can approach it after a year or two. That's kind of where it ties into just being a home aquarist. Enjoy the fish keeping in that 1.5 to 2 year time frame as you get to learn and understand more about the hobby. Whether if you're a new aquarist or returning aquarist, whatever the case might be, then you can go ahead and you're buying from them. You're learning what works, what doesn't work. You're learning what is popular in your market, depending on what species it is, and you're gonna learn to develop relationships as you go. And you got to be a people person. If you work in retail, it's going to be easier for you than somebody that has really no human interaction skills. Yeah, I mean, that's about the easiest thing I can say is learn, buy from them. Just don't start off a conversation, hey, what can I sell you today? The main thing is first impressions. Look at it as if you're going to your very first job interview. That's the easiest way I can put it.
We are to the 10th question here. What are your thoughts on the beginning breeder on shipping livestock?
It's your channel. So what do you want me to do? You want me to do a watered down version? Or you want me to do the?
I want you to rant it up.
I think most people's shipping sucks, to be honest with you. The reason that is that people don't study what works and what doesn't work. Every zoning is different. Again, relationships is key. I can guarantee you the first time you go to your, if you utilize whatever carrier or supplier that is, shipper is, they see anything related to water, livestock, they don't like to do it. So what hurts the hobby for us that put the time into doing it, somebody like myself, knock on wood, I haven't ever had an issue as far as leakage, anybody ever give me negative feedback. Now, as far as losses, anytime that's ever happened, it was out of our discretion, out of our control. I've even had things in transit for about 14 days in the middle of summer going down to Florida, not rare stuff, but difficult species, like tetras and stuff like that can be kind of finicky during shipping, and everything arrived alive and fine. And I've had other cases, unfortunately, where things haven't shown up, and anytime that's ever happened was usually always 3 or 4 extra added delay, but I always anticipate the worst case scenario. I tested for an entire year before I even started shipping. I always dealt locally. I started out local through Aquabid, or local, started out Aquabid, eBay, Craigslist, that type of stuff, and just got a feel for it. And then if you want to get into shipping, you can check out some of the videos. Even those videos are very watered down because the way I adapt each scenario of shipping, because oftentimes we ship here dry goods with livestock to save on cost for everybody. And you don't really want to be sending multiple packages to the same location because it can really cause some confusion because you might have one delayed and another one showing up. So the way I try to do it is I ship everything at once, and that creates some major issues if it's not done right, because you don't want, let's say you're shipping crushed coral with a bag of livestock, you don't want that crushed coral negatively impacting, the bag. For me, I'm not a fan of breather bags. I think that they absolutely suck. I think they are the worst thing. Get rid of them. Anytime I've ever seen an issue is breather bags. The reason people aren't doing them right, that's the problem. I will use a 2 to 4 plus mil bag, and then we double, triple bag it. I would not recommend it to somebody that hasn't been at least, locally and understanding how the market works. The first thing would be, to me, if you want just a very watered down few tips here, check out the basic videos out there. I mean, you can check out our video. There's other people that show and get a feel for it and understanding on how to arrange a box and so forth. It's quite complex because people don't realize the time that goes into it behind the scenes as far as understanding USPS account. If you have a website, there's certain legal ramifications and ordinances that you have to abide by. You have to ensure that you label things appropriately. A lot of people try to misrepresent and be deceptive in order to get things there in a different manner. And and I don't agree with it. So with that being said, is Purigen works phenomenally well. I don't use malachite green. Other folks do. Other folks use pure oxygen, which is fine. I don't think it's necessary. Really depends on the circumstances and what you're doing. I think some cases appropriate, other cases okay that you don't. The main thing is make sure that you allow for certain amount of expansion and contraction within that bag. And the biggest thing is don't have bags touch. I find that's one of the biggest issues. You're depleting the overall, you're creating moisture issues. So you wanna, that's why anybody that's ever received, you'll see layers in between and it's not touching. It drives me crazy when bags are touching. Don't do that.
So that's why they wrap bags.
You'll find moisture issues and expansion contraction issues. That's what I've noticed using pure oxygen. If it's actual pure oxygen or medical grade type of oxygen, it really depends on if you went to like your welding department store, if you went to like an oxygen department store, and you can notice some additional issues depending on elevation. A lot of factors go into it, so you really need to understand what zones you're shipping to. Livestock wise, I've shipped all throughout the US. We don't ship internationally. Don't even have a import-export license to even do that. And to be honest with you, we have enough stuff right here in the States. It's not even necessary to be doing that. Yeah, I mean, Purigen, using the appropriate amount, appropriate type of bag. Insulation is very important. I think I've already answered, I don't use chemicals. Using basically air is the biggest aspect that I see. Is anytime anybody has ever received, one of the first things I'll ask them is, how was the pressure inside the bag? And they're like, oh, it was solid, it was tight. I was like, you just packed 2 thumbs up. The key to that is using tape. I'm concerned about the well-being of the livestock. It's the most important thing to me. That's the key thing there. Just add a little extra on the very last bag. So if you double bag it using like a 2 or 3 mil bag, in the invert, I mean, there's different ways to do it. When you make that final knot, go ahead and cut that little extra piece off. Go ahead and just make a little cross on the tape. And I find that does just that little extra cross on the tape helps just stabilize that bag with a little extras.
Number 11, what is your process regarding conditioning and preparing fish for shipping?
Detox is the most important thing. So detox, basically, so if anybody ordered from us, it has to be ordered by Saturday. Now, is there a definite time? No, it's not on the website. What that means is it gives us ample amount of time on Sunday to go ahead and detox Sunday and Monday to ship out Tuesdays. In our zone, Mondays suck, Wednesdays suck, Thursdays suck, Fridays suck, and Saturdays suck. Tuesday is the key thing. Depending on what carrier you use, let's use USPS as an example. If you ship on Saturday, I understand that they're still commuting on Sunday, even though it's not going to technically be delivered to your house on Sunday, but they're still commuting. For me in our zone, doesn't matter where I've shipped, I test it out. It just causes a big old cluster. Tuesdays seem to overall work. That's why we stick with only livestock on Tuesday.
All right. So question number 12, what are your thoughts on someone getting into the hobby, either just fish keeping in general or full-on breeding, in regards to loss of livestock?
You have to be able to get in that mental preparedness. As I was saying earlier, kind of tied in, I think, with something else, is to understand it doesn't matter how long you've been in the hobby, you will have loss. 100% it's going to happen. That's a fact of life. You come and you go. That's the way things work. And the same thing, it could be a year, it could be 10 years. To me, it's not only sustainability, but the overall longevity and making sure that your fish thrive, that they're not just surviving, but they're thriving in whatever condition it is. And again, it just depends on what it is. Unfortunately, here in captivity, if we're all accurate and fair with ourselves, we're all selfish. We are. I mean, we're never going to be able to give any one of our pets, our livestock, the appropriate amount of space. Doesn't matter how big you go. And yeah, I mean, you have to get in the mental state of mind, for me, to understand that you're going to have loss. I've gone through, I've shared that. I've had my fair share of losses, not only financially, I've lost a ton of livestock. And it was just because of my lack of quarantining. And it came down to, and I'm not trying to blame shit, because ultimately it falls still back on me, because it was something I wasn't practicing what I was preaching. And I share that in depth. I'm not going to go into it. But I didn't quarantine. I trusted the source. And unfortunately, I didn't practice what I preach. So that's why I tell you guys all the time, if it's from him, if it's from me, if it's from somebody that's been doing it for 75 years, quarantine. If they tell you any different, even if you get fish from your local fish store or friend, quarantine. Because guess what? Everybody's fine with not quarantine until something ends up happening. That's the way it goes.
All right, good answer, man. Let's see here. Okay, that was 12. So number 13, what is your opinion on the most effective way to send a severely sick fish to fishy heaven?
Clove oil.
Clove oil?
Yep. You're going to slowly provide them a sedative in order to relax them. Yeah, that's the easiest way I can put it. There is a way to go about doing it. There really is no good content. I mean, the best way to do it is you're going to have to find old literature if you do it the right way. And I'm not going to sit here and go through what's the chemical breakdown and how you go about it. But the best thing to do is to understand what the appropriate ratio is and how you go about doing it. And I've had to do it plenty of times, not only through sedation purposes in order to perform certain surgical procedures, but unfortunately you have to completely euthanize.
Right.
If you overdo it, you're not going to be able to bring the fish back.
Right.
But a lot of veterinary, it's been around for a lot of years. Clove oil is nothing new.
All right.
There is other options, but that's
what your
us
opinion.
As hobbyists and what we have if I had other means to do other things, then I may do a little bit different. But
okay, I think we answered this one earlier, or in your live stream possibly. But how many aquariums do you have running right now?
We have probably around 110. Active.
All right. And the next question is, how many backup aquariums do you have?
I want to say 4 or 6.
4 or 6. Okay. All right. Everybody always has, like Bob from Steam Thought Aquatics has a garage full
and that doesn't include totes. If you want to include,
well, yeah.
Then I'm probably looking at 15, 20.
Right. Okay. So 17. What's your thoughts on someone starting a website versus just selling off of an Aquabit account or private email account? What made you decide to make that transition?
Control. I don't want to have to go through another. eBay takes too much in fees. And I wanted the control to be able to make the changes when need be. I want to have the control of how I go in and move things around on the website. So really there's no comparison at all. I mean, if you're not doing it on a long-term basis, or if you're just selling here and there, that type of stuff, then I would do Aquabid, eBay. Again, technically there's certain ramification rules and regulations that are in place. That's why, to me, I can not worry about any of that, and I got control. So if the issue ever comes back, guess who it's on? It's on me.
But number 18 is, do you think that fish sleep?
Oh my goodness. Should I go ask?
Yeah, really, go ask them.
Yes, of course their metabolism is it's gonna more or less neutralize once they. It's one of those things. Do fish feel pain? Do they not feel pain? If people understand lateral lines and where nerve roots actually branch off, that kind of ties in to that aspect of it. Can anybody ever definitively say? Sure. To me, it's more of a heart issue. I think if you just go in with the mindset as if there's no pain associated with it at all, there's no scientific basis and definitive thing without the communication of them verbally saying, yes, I feel pain.
Right.
You're going to have certain scientists that will say 100% yes. You're going to have people in between. Then you'll have another spectrum that will say, no, that's just crazy thinking.
Number 20 is, what are some different things a person could do once they have determined something is wrong with their fish? I.e., like figuring out what is really wrong with the fish versus what people in social media say is wrong. I know I get a lot of times, medicate them. And I think I have the same thoughts as you do on this, but I want to hear what you got to say about this.
I would say most of those responses you're going to see is from somebody that's been in the hobby for maybe 6 months and doesn't have a clue. I can't tell you how many times I go on forums and just, that's why I don't give advisement, because the last thing I want to see, and that's why any of us that have been in, quote unquote, in the hobby for any prolonged period of time, if you start giving too much direction, you could follow the exact same regimen that I would in that situation, but your water chemistry is completely different. Tank A, Tank B, Tank 3, or whatever the tank may be in our own fish rooms, you might be like, well, aren't they all similar in water chemistry? Yes and no, but I treat each one as their own little ecosystem, and it really depends. I might have ick in one system, ick in another system. Does that mean I'm going to be treating system A like system B? Not necessarily. There's a lot of factors that go into it, and I don't like to necessarily give direction because I don't want to see anybody come back and point the finger at me because they end up messing it up. For the most part, I'm not a firm believer on medications. I think that the problem is using them too much. They develop an immunity. So when you actually need to use them, you have gram positive, gram negative. So when you use one thing, people think that they're using these certain medications. You're actually being contradictory to the other medication, where it's being counterproductive because people don't understand gram negative, gram positive, and all the different various aspects of whatever medication it might be.
Question number 21. Have you ever dissected a fish or put under a microscope to determine what was wrong with a fish that was sick? And if someone did try those two things, what would they be looking for?
Oh, man. Yes, I have. I got a microscope right here on my desk. But if I want to do something more elaborative and more in depth, I actually even educated my own, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but the reality of it is you have a veterinarian that specializes in a different field. We actually use it as a, this was a few years back, I have a good relationship with our local veterinarian that does a phenomenal job with our pets. And one of the areas was specifically dealing with allobiopsidae when it comes to shrimp, specifically Neocaridina shrimp versus typically, in my experience of 13, 14 years of breeding and keeping not only Caridina species, but also Neos, my theory and basis behind using that as an example is because of the acidified, more in that 6.5 range pH, where the parasitic host and how it adapts and bonds with the shrimp is going to be different. So that's my theory and basis behind what I've seen and what I've studied with my own eyes and experience. You typically aren't going to see it with Caridina species that are from the wild versus something like a Neocaridina, because the waters are a little bit different there. So I went ahead and I brought in multiple specimens and took different slides, and I went ahead and confirmed based on imaging that we pulled from different literature. And then you had all of these individuals around, vet technicians, that were very intrigued because they see this little tiny microscopic shrimp. And it was an honor to me because he's like, well, what do you think? What do you see here? And, you know, he's a doctor, he's a veterinarian. So I was actually going there to get his second opinion to confirm what my suspicion was versus the other way around. So, you know, him and I put our heads together and a couple of the other individuals there, and we confirmed that was 100%. That's what it was. So,
wow.
And you're talking, these are microscopes that they have there. He allowed me to come in and go in the no zone, you know, so that obviously they have enough trust for me to go back there. So that was pretty cool to be able to utilize their equipment.
That is great.
It's several $1,000 microscopes, not one of those knockoffs.
I've never heard that story, and I've been a subscriber of yours for a long time, so that's pretty cool. All right. So on to question number 22, and it's just basically, and I don't know where I was getting at again. I did these questions late at night, but live bearers or egg scatterers?
Oh, egg-bearing, egg-scattering species all day long.
Right. Awesome. You've got a lot of them, and they're awesome.
Way more challenging.
Yeah. And I'm starting to dabble a little bit. So, all right. Question number 23. Have you ever created a species, whether it be a live bearer or other type of fish, etc., and what is it? No, you never have.
That would be on my bucket list.
All right. That would be cool. I just wondered.
Nope.
All right. So number 24. What is the most memorable costly mistake you've ever made in fish keeping / breeding?
All within 2-week time frame. Fortunately, I ended up losing over 1,000 of my line bred for multiple years in a 90-gallon setup. I was one of those individuals that kept shrimp in a big tank. I really enjoyed it. It was nicely aquascaped. I had the whole, third rule, and it looked really nice. And that was before I did any type of YouTube. And these were higher grade that I've line bred through the years. Neocaridina devidae. And a lot of them were really deep reds, and I didn't end up quarantining. I introduced, unfortunately, that's the yellow biopsidae. And once that, if I could do one thing to change the hobby, it would come up with a way in order to prevent further contamination with Biopsidae. You can do it, but it's a very tedious process. Needless to say, I lost hundreds upon hundreds of dollars if I added the value up in that tank, if not in the thousands. And it was well over 1,000, unfortunately. It sucks to even talk about it. It makes you sick to your stomach.
Yeah.
And then a week later, I ended up losing another about 700, 800 of my ancestors plecos because I didn't quarantine. At that time, I was on a central system. I trusted the source. I wasn't practicing what I preach. And that even is more costly. Again, yeah, it hit me hard, but it never stopped me from the hobby. I took it as a challenge. I learned from it. I grew from it. Guess what? I don't run anything on a central system anymore. I learned the hard way because I was one of those people. Hey, it's great for breeding purposes because the pheromones are released in the water. It helps trigger certain breeding, and it went on for 10 years without any issues. And all of a sudden, one day, boom, it hit me like a ton of bricks, all within a 2-week time frame.
That is crazy, man. All right. Question number 25. Lastly, what did you eat for breakfast today, Jeremy?
It was a salad.
He ate a salad
Yeah,
in
we
it.
tried out a new place that a buddy of mine through the club. We've seen his fish store, which I think you'll end up putting a video out eventually.
Right.
And recommended not too far from his place, and it wasn't too bad.
It looked.
I'll give it a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, it looked really good. Sure was nice getting to sit down with Jeremy. It was really awesome. I think he really enjoyed it. I don't know if he's ever been interviewed on YouTube before, but he did a really good. As always, Jeremy is a wealth of knowledge, and it sure was nice getting to meet him, let alone get to sit down and interview him. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If it is your first time stopping by my channel, make sure and hit that subscribe button. And while you're at it, don't forget to hit that post notification bell so you don't miss out on any one of my videos. I upload videos every Monday and Thursday, and I also live stream every Wednesday and Saturday night. Thanks for coming along on this video. Hopefully you enjoyed. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace out, y'all.